Hey, what's up, everybody? Well, I'm finally back, and this might be the only video I ever post in the month of August because we are going into, thankfully, the only month that begins with the Superman logo. And while it's not my favorite month, it's a start towards the ones that are. I like the thought of spending about 2 months decorated. Ideally, you would spend about 2 months decorated for autumn and Halloween, early September to early November, and then about 2 months, roughly, decorated for winter and Christmas. And around here, the good news is that when the Burr months are over, my favorite months of the year end in BER, you have the 2 airy months in which you could theoretically be decorated for Mardi Gras for about 2 months, roughly a little after New Year's to early March, which is, I think, the latest Mardi Gras you could have. And then you start to get into Easter. So, while the weather is cooler, you have all these cool holidays. And while I enjoyed being at my mom's house, I enjoyed it, in spite of the bad things that happened. I like to get back over here because I'm reminded that while neither place is heaven on earth, neither place is hell, this is the place where I need to be. This is where I have a purpose. I might enjoy a lot of things about being at my mom's house, such as the cat, but over there I don't have a purpose. Other than, well, obviously to be with her, but I feel like I'm just wasting my time. Even if I'm happy much of the time, it just doesn't feel like home. Never will feel like home again unless and until he dies, and I'm left with no other option. But it will never be my home, I made that choice, 10 years ago now? Holy crap. And she might want to lure me back over there in various ways, but it's not going to work because I have a purpose over here. And I know what it is, unfortunately. And there's my telescope. I didn't even bother to bring my telescope because as much as I enjoy seeing the full moon, in spite of the mosquitoes, I knew that other than one night, it would be better off over here because, like I stated before, this is my home, whether she likes it or not. And, I know I'm being used, so to speak. You could say that I'm being used, I'm being taken advantage of over here, and I see it. That's how men operate, or they always have. If at all possible, they never truly learn life skills for themselves. They just don't, because someone will be there, to take care of it, even if they don't, so they don't have to. When they're little, it's of course their mom. When they're, if they go off to college, they suffer. And whenever they get a wife or a girlfriend or whatnot, it's her. And in my dad's case, and this is what my mom hates, he divorced her, but to an extent, he still gets to have the benefit of me. He still gets to have the result of his relationship with her, and she cannot stand that, and she wants to, use my absence to hurt him. And so, I don't like to talk bad about either one of my parents, but, I know that I have a purpose over here, however much I don't like that purpose. I don't like cleaning up behind him. I don't like being the only one who gives a tinker's damn about anything, But at the same time, removing me is not the solution. I mean, yes, I'm being taken advantage of. Yes, I'm being basically worked to death, which is why my feet are hurting me so much, like never before in my life. I'm being worked to death, you know, and he expects me to want to do all of it for free. You know, he scoffs or gets mad at me anytime I want to buy something that's for myself and not him. You know, anything edible, you know, it's going to make me fat, even though he scarfs it down a lot faster than I do. You know, like cookies and all that. Anything, you know, that's more in line with what I want, which is what I want to get into. Um, you know, he gets mad about I'm spending too much money and I don't need, you know, I don't need any more clothing because I have 2 closets overflowing with clothes. I don't need any more shoes. I don't need any more jackets. You know, I don't need this. I don't need that. Well, you know what? Working for free just for, you know, a roof over my head is not really what I need or want either. So, um, it's just not fair. But at the same time, it's like she likes to take me away from this environment to, you know, as a solution. You know, tell my mom about, you know, all the things that I don't like over here. But, you know, removing from this house the one person who cares is not the solution. You know what I'm saying? Removing me from this house for an extended period of time is not the solution. It's not going to result in good things. It's only going to result in rotten fruits, um, you know, cultures, so to speak, grown in the refrigerator, um, disgusting disaster everywhere. You know, it looks like a natural disaster came through here, like the hurricane made landfall in this house, even though it was offshore in the Atlantic, Hurricane Aaron. Um, you know, it's not going to result in anything good to take me out of the house. That is not the solution. In fact, that's only going to make it worse on me because it's like missing school. Yeah, that, I mean, that would be like missing, like, you know, having your kid miss school to punish the teacher for giving your kid too much homework. Well, that's not the solution because, you know, the work is still going to have, I mean, the work will still be assigned. You'll just have to make it up and it'll be that much harder to catch up. You know what I'm saying? Um, punishing a teacher by keeping your kid out of school is not the solution. In fact, that wouldn't punish the teacher. Um, you know, punishing your boss by missing work isn't going to work either. Um, you know, and that's what I feel like. I feel like I can go on vacation, so to speak. I can go to my mom's house. And while I do love a lot of the things about being there, you know, like painting my nails green, like peridot, um, I know that it's temporary. You know, no matter how long of a visit I stay with her, it's still temporary, and I have to come back at some point. And the longer I stay, the worse it's gonna be. You know, and I mean, I've started. Oh my gosh, the things I've had to resort to. You know, such as literally bringing the milk. Like if I haven't, if I know I'm about to go to my mom's house, I just don't buy any new milk if I run out. But if I unfortunately still have some milk, you know, since he doesn't drink straight up cow's milk, um, if I have some milk left in the fridge, what I have to do is literally bring the milk with me to my mom's house. And that's pretty ridiculous. You know, when instead of having more space to put stuff that I actually want to bring, you know, or would need to bring, I have to think about effing milk, you know, and bringing our milk, even though she has milk at her house. I bring the milk because you know why? Because if I leave the milk, I will come back and find that it is literally turning into cottage cheese in a jug. That's what will happen. It will turn solid because not only will he let it spoil and go bad, just like his old mom, he will literally just leave the milk not only spoiled, but weeks spoiled. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, not just past the expiration date, but I mean a month past the expiration date if that's how long I stay away. Um, Same thing with the bread. I had to bring a loaf or part of a loaf of bread, because if I left that here, I would come back to a bag of moldy bread slices and solid milk in a jug, becoming cottage cheese. And that's the kind of thing. It's like, and he says, "Oh, while you were gone, I had the worst luck with tomatoes and avocados just going bad." Well, it isn't luck. It's the lack of a person with the judgment to know when to put them in the fridge. They just rotting on the windowsill. And it's just so many things that, my mom treats me like I'm just this burden. I'm just a burden. And, she doesn't benefit from me being there. She's doing extra work. When the reality is, I went over there, and just like that, I solved a computer problem that she just could not figure out for weeks on end. And she was threatening to get rid of the computer when it was just a very simple click of a mouse. I go over there and I solve things that she cannot figure out with technology. And if the lawnmower still worked, I would be helping cut the grass instead of having it grow a foot tall until the guy can come over. For various reasons, he's unable to come. So, they benefit so much from me, but yet they don't see it. Neither one of them. They benefit in different ways, but, both of my parents would be doing much better if we all three lived together under one roof, all of us, Mom, Dad, and me. We could all help each other out in so many ways. So yeah. It's like they expect me, not to want anything in return, but I do. I feel like just a roof over my head and a bed to sleep in and clothes, it's just not really enough. I just want something more. I feel like what I'm doing is not free in value, and and that is why my foot is hurting. Which he can't figure that out. But when you have to go help cut the grass, I don't have to, but I'd rather help than him just cut half of the front yard and do the other half the next day. Come on, when there's another person who can finish it. And I can also edge or trim, when he decides that that's not important, which is why the weeds just miraculously, they just commit suicide the day I come back, within a few hours. He thinks the weeds just magically disappear because I'm back. And no, there's a very deliberate thing going on. So, it's like they benefit from me. Whether they'll admit it or not, they benefit greatly from me. Not just doing nothing. I'm not just sitting around watching TV. Yeah, I never watch TV ever. Not even just to sit and be with them. I can't stand it. But yeah, so I'm glad to be back, and I feel like I have a purpose. I feel like I have a purpose here that I don't have at my mom's house. I feel like I'm wasting my time over there. And the most that really happens is, if she's not mad for some reason, or she happens to be sleeping, I just have, more time for deep philosophical thought and listening to music. I have more time alone at my mom's house, than over here. But I feel like I'm wasting my time. I'd much rather be over here accomplishing something, even if it's not very important or meaningful, like fixing her hair, which I'm going to talk about in another video. So yeah, I'll go ahead and post this video. I'm glad to be back.